In this video, we're going to be solving a percent or percentage type problem. The problem says 60 is 20% of what number? Okay, to solve this, we need to create an equation with an unknown. That's that number we're trying to solve. And then we're going to solve for that unknown. Okay, that sounds kind of simple, but it could get a little complicated. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to be putting this 20% into an equation. And I can't solve a problem with 20% written in this format. I need 20% to be in its decimal format, okay? So I can rewrite 20% a few different ways, or any percent, to be honest. I can rewrite 20% in its fractional form, which is just simply I take my percent, whatever it is, and I put it over 100. Okay, that's the fractional form. So it was a 20, so I put a 20 over 100. This is the fractional form of 20%. And I can also write it in its decimal form. Now, how do I find the decimal form? Well, I simply take my fraction, and as we know, a fraction is simply a division we haven't performed, okay? I could rewrite 20 over 100 as 20 divided by 100, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve that. What is 20 divided by 100? Well, if I plug that in my calculator, or if I'm comfortable with my solving skills, I can just solve it in my brain. But 20 divided by 100 is actually equal to 0.20. Okay, so it's important that we understand the different ways we can write a percent out. Okay, so in this question, we're going to need the decimal form. Okay, we could have used a fractional form, but decimal form is a bit nicer. It's one less step to do. So we have our decimal form. Now what we're going to do is we're going to read our question again, and we're going to write our equation with our unknown variable in it, and then we're going to solve it. Okay, so it says 60 is 20% of what number? So we know 60 is our answer, right? It's the answer to our equation, not the number we're looking for, but 60 is the answer to our equation, okay? So we had a number, we took 20% of it, and the answer was 60. Okay, so let's write that. We're going to write equals 60. So what did I just say? I said we had a number. We don't know this number. Let's call that x. We took 20% of that number. So that means we took our number that we don't know, this what number, x, and we're going to multiply that. We're going to use just a dot because we can use a dot instead of a little multiplication symbol. It means the same thing. So we're going to multiply our unknown number by our percent, but we can't write it as 20%. Remember I said we want to use the decimal form. So let's write that down, 0.20. All of a sudden, we have our equation we need to solve to find our unknown x. So let's go through this again. Okay, that might have been a little quick. Our question says 60 is 20% of what number? So I can also read this as what number x, when I take 20% of it, so what number x, when I multiply it by 20%, written in its decimal form, is going to equal 60. Okay, so that's exactly what I wrote out here. Okay, so the biggest problem that I find when trying to solve this type of equation or question is this step here, right? Coming up with my equation to solve. Once I have my equation to solve, I just use my normal methods, right? I isolate for my x and I simplify and boom, I have my answer. Okay? All right, let's do this. I have my x on my left-hand side. I like that. It's where I want it to be, so I can leave the x there. But I have a number term multiplied by it. I don't want that there, right? I'm going to need to do the opposite thing. So if we have multiplication, I need to do the opposite thing. I'm going to need to divide by the same number. So in this case, 0.20. I need to divide both sides by the same thing. And then I can isolate this x, right? Because now I've got x times 0.20 divided by 0.20. I can cancel these two out, right? Because they're the same. I'm left with just x over there. That's great. Now, I have x equals 60 divided by 0.2. Now, it's really important that we remember that when we have a fraction is simply a division that we have not performed, okay? We don't need to ever perform the division. We can leave a fraction as a fraction, okay? But when we have a question like this, where we have something like 60 over 0.20, we don't want to leave it like that, right? We want to simplify as far as we can, and we can, right? We just have numbers. And the whole point of this question is it's asking us to find a number, okay? So if we can take it as far as we can, and we don't want to leave something in this form, okay? If we can just end up with a number answer, whether it's a whole number, maybe decimal number, we're okay with that, okay? So it's 60 divided by 0.2. And if I plug that into a calculator, or if I just simply perform the operation in my head or on paper, I'm going to get an answer of 300. If you would like to learn how to quickly study for your GED exam online and get a new resume, then visit testprepskills.com.